Right. All right, we're going live here. You got to step here. My dear, camera's there. There you go. Yeah. Hey, look at that. That's cutting you out. Oh, I'm still in. Okay. Just in the show right there. All right. It's all right. So we got about a half an hour for everybody to kind of show up and then go from there.
Lyn, did you see the video I sent you of this place?
No.
That's it. And the problem we're going to have is the fact that you're going to have to kind of put the headsets on loosely because the audio comes from the TV right now. Hello, YouTube. We're still just getting set up. Nice to see everybody.
So, Lyn, did you get the video I sent you of this place? No. You didn't? Oh.
God, can you do anything? No.
Chrissy. Hi, Chrissy. Hello. Hi, darling. Sorry to not be there. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay.
We're making the best of it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, really. That's what we all have to do, right? Just pivot. You have to pivot and make the best of it.
Yep, make the best of it. That's all we can do.
Yes, good job.
Lyn, I'm convinced if you look at this video when you get a chance, I'm convinced there's some cars in here you've driven at some point in your career. There are either cars you've driven or there's cars you wish you had driven.
Well, that's easy.
Well, most of the cars here are cars we wish we'd driven.
Yeah.
People sign it on? No? Yeah, there we go. Now we're seeing our YouTube pick up. 8 viewers. Hi, everybody on YouTube. So you're being simulcast from Park Place, of course. Peaking. That's still peaking big time. Yeah, it'll be all right. Okay.
And we're all drinking quite heavily here.
Of course. We don't know what he's talking about. I mean, my hands are, hands are full of Jesus. His hard sparkling water. Something like that. Yeah.
Where did he come from?
You've spent time with us. You know what this can expect.
I'm still just recovering. I'm still in counseling from the last time we did this.
Okay.
My God.
I think it's been like 3 years. Lyn and I did an interview down in Arizona with Barry McGuire in a like a man hangar, one of those man places.
Oh,
and it's been, I know when Chrissy first said that, I was like, yeah, I've spent some time with her. We had a good time. Like there was one audience member that was a little tough. He was an owner of like a dealership or something, and he really wanted to grill down into her about something, and she dealt with it well. Like the rest of us are kind of going, oh. So it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you doing that. It's almost like she's used to working under pressure. That is something like that. Yeah, it is something like that. So
I quite frankly think Lyn can handle just about anything you throw at him.
I was not worried about it, but yeah. Well, since you've been waiting for us, I should probably just kick this off. We're doing just a happy hour right now, so I'm letting the audience settle in on YouTube, and thanks everybody for joining us away. Lyn St. James, welcome to the show. Welcome. I'm sorry you couldn't be here today, and we're very excited to have you, though. Nick's been spoiled and got to talk to you, but I haven't yet. So
and I can't see you.
You cut it. Yeah, I'm hiding off to the side, but I swear I'm here.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, the way it crops.
Everything was fine till.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm still in there, but it'll show up on the
Are
recording.
You sure you're in this?
I can see it right there.
Making
sure.
I
made sure ahead of time.
This is going to look really weird if the voice of Dan is in the background. But
yeah, I'm just the ghost in the room.
Okay. So that still didn't help. Okay.
Yeah, that didn't help at all. Well, anyway.
Don and I look fabulous.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, with this one, we're coming from Park Place. I want to give a special thanks to them for making this happen because they still gave us a spot. I know things changed very quickly and you were meant to be here with us. And I'm sorry that didn't work out, but a huge thanks to them. So they're a great Avants partner, and they have a long history in the racing world. As Don mentioned earlier, there's probably some cars in here you've driven. I mean, you can't see behind us, but there's a Lotus they've raced, an Indy car, Saline. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I wish you were here.
Yeah, or I wish somebody was walking around showing me the cars.
Yeah, Don.
You had one job.
One job. Sorry. I don't get out much.
Like you've had a busy day.
Yeah. So we always start our show with a Carter Automotive Group tip of the week, and this one comes from Indy, and you're going to know this one, but I'm going to ask some people in the room real quick. Does anybody know what the celebratory drink of Indy is? That's right. It's milk. of all things, which seems like a terrible idea on a hot day, as the quote goes.
Yep.
But that started back in 1936 when a driver won Indy, and it was the first thing he grabbed was a cold glass of milk. And ever since then, the dairy farmers of Washington have partnered with Indy to make this happen. And so today it's more of like a Gatorade thing where they just dump it over people because milk on a hot day doesn't seem that great. But
nice cold milk.
It is an interesting fact of Indy that I thought was worth sharing that people probably have seen and thought that's weird. But there you go.
Actually, the driver, and I can't remember now the driver's name, but they didn't hand it to him. He requested buttermilk. Which
That's what it was.
That? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a French driver.
I didn't think that could get worse, but buttermilk would be definitely worse.
And then I watched the Detroit race, and Marcus Ericsson, of course, who won the Indy 500, said that he could smell sour milk in his car at Detroit because it was still left over from Indy.
Oh.
Why is it when somebody says the word sour milk, you can instantly smell it?
Yeah. 36. Lewis Meyer was the driver who did that. It was 1936.
That's right.
I think Emma wanted orange juice, didn't he?
That's right. I mean, he was kind of booed by a lot of the fans because he requested orange juice first, and then he did go to the milk. But because he has orange groves in Brazil, he requested orange juice.
There you go.
I would go orange juice over milk.
I've still got sour milk in my brain. Sorry. Let alone buttermilk. I cannot believe that. Lyn, you've had an incredible racing career. Can you tell us a little bit about, everybody can go on the internet and kind of figure out where you've been and the things you've done, which are incredible. But where was that spark that started you wanting to be a race car driver or be in a car and beat the pants off of everybody?
Well, it kind of is hard to answer that in one moment. I went to the Indy 500 and that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, but that I didn't ever think, I was going to do that. Really the spark was the first time I got behind the wheel of a drag. I was drag racing a street car legally at a drag strip and won. I actually won the race. I was driving my buddy's GTO and I got the biggest trophy in my life that I think ever existed. And that's, being at the line with the Christmas tree, and then they taught me, how to, hold it at 3,000 RPM and drop the clutch and go through the gears. And that whole experience was like electrifying. But I was a teenager, and that was not at all embraced by my parents when I came home with that trophy. And so that sort of got parked. And then really fast forward about 10 years later, I went to the 24 Hours of Daytona for the first time as a spectator. And I saw real people driving race cars again. They were driving, obviously real people were racing at the drags. But, besides Mario Andretti and Pedro Rodriguez and all the superstars, there was also Porsches and Camaros and really cool cars with just normal people at the back of the grid, but it still showed that it was kind of possible. And that's when the spark really, I said, and I was 27 and I thought, okay, it doesn't matter what my parents think anymore about what I'm going to do with my life. And so I decided that was what I was going to do.
It sounds like you were making good decisions to go to these races in the first place, to see these wonderful events.
Well, in the 60s, which is when, the muscle car era, that's what we all did. We were at the drags or we were at the, local fairgrounds. There was always some race to go to. And then, of course, I lived in Ohio, so Indy wasn't that far away. So, yeah.
Now, your first official race car was not what I expected. If what I read was true, can you tell me about your first race car?
Yes, my first race car was a Ford Pinto. It was an eligible brand new class in SCCA, the Sports Car Club of America, called showroom stock. And the cheapest eligible car was a Ford Pinto. So I went down to my Ford dealer, ordered a Ford Pinto. I lived in South Florida, ordered it with no air conditioning because that would be extra, weight and take power off the engine, and put a roll bar in it, a 5-foot seatbelt, a 5-pound fire extinguisher, which was required for all race cars and not just Pintos, if you remember the story of the Pinto.
Most Pintos need fire extinguishers, though, no matter what. So, yeah.
And that was my street car during the week, and then I started racing it in SCCA on weekends.
Okay.
Well-
was the car that took a bath, right?
Yes, that was the car after driver school, my very first race, which is the same weekend of driver school. You know, they kind of let you have a race after you pass, but you still have an X on your car to let everybody know you're a rookie and stay away from you. I lost control of the car as somebody went to pass me. The overall leader came around, and I was paying so much attention to my points, to my entry and my braking points, and I forgot to watch the mirrors, and all of a sudden this car showed up, and I just lost control, and I spun out, and this is down in South Florida at West Palm Beach, which is a track that unfortunately right now is just closing. I ended up in what I thought was a pond, but it turns out it was a little deeper than that, and the car totally sank. So the car took a bath, yes, and I had to tow that car home, flat tow it home, clean it out, dry it out, so that I could drive it to work.
I mean, to me, it sounds like she was the first race car driver to like clean up her car at that time. So that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody washes their car after they're done. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just, it's a drive-through. Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to take just a minute. Our audience is saying you're a little quiet, so I'm going to see if I can give you a little more microphone gain.
Okay.
Looks like that.
You want me?
Right there.
And I can get closer to my computer.
Let's try that. I'm trying to make this good for our audience here.
And I'm
It's almost the
sorry,
point,
'cause my-
so
I
the audience
know,
can
right?
listen, right? So
Got your mic turned all the way up. Let me see if I can turn ours down a little. Maybe that'll help the audience a little bit. A little like delay on the screen here.
Well, my voice, unfortunately, is not doing really that great. I'm coming back, but I'm not quite strong yet.
Yeah, hopefully that's a little better for our audience. I turned our gain down, turned yours up a little bit. Hopefully we're getting there. Bear with us, audience. Thanks for letting us know. Hey, Evan. Josie Rimmer in the audience, who you know from Dirtfish. We got to see you speak there a little bit as Nick and I went out for the ladies' day there. You've been at this, so let's move to women in motorsports, because this is really what I want to talk to you about. And you've kind of pioneered this, which is, I mean, when did you start? 94? You started the foundation?
Well, 94 is when I started a foundation. I wanted to do a driver development program. I wanted to be able to invite what I thought was talented drivers out there. And I kind of scoured the landscape. I used to read like National Speed Sport News and look for names, because they always had all the finishing results. And I'd look for names, and I'd try to find women, female names. And then I'd contact Speed Sport. I mean, it was a real hassle, but I would find what I thought were some talented drivers out there. And then I wanted to tell them everything that I learned that took me so long to learn, and try to accelerate, their learning process about nutrition and about fitness, and, about how to market yourself and how to do an interview, and all the things that most of these young drivers feel, female, male, whatever, they just didn't know about that stuff. And so I created a driver development program in 1994, continued that for 20 years, trained over 230 drivers from 30 states and 7 countries, I think, came from all over the world. And finally, I mean, I ran out of steam. I ran out of funding, because I only charged them $500 to come for the event. It was 4 days long. And so I got kind of quiet around 2014. And then, timing is everything in this world. And so I transferred our program into a scholarship program, but I wasn't able to continue to raise money, so we had to freeze that. And this year, I was able to, or actually last August, I got to meet Beth Peretta, and we started brainstorming, and lo and behold, with all of this attention about diversity and inclusion and equity, it was like the time was right, I think, to really to come together. And we invited other experts and professionals, not just drivers, not people just driving, but also in all disciplines of motorsports. And we created a new entity called Women in Motorsports North America. And we represent engineering, we represent marketing, we represent fabrication, we represent crew members, we represent educators, we represent all disciplines of motorsports. And And then we created a community. We've got a website that gives information about Racing 101. What is a team structure? What are the different racing organizations? I think everybody kind of either knows nothing or they know just a little bit about what they know. And so whether it's drag racing or whether it's USAC racing or whether it's go-kart racing, but they don't understand the full landscape and what the opportunities are. So we really want to become a portal. We are a portal of information for what's going on out there. So we're helping share information about other groups that are doing things, as well as we're going to create a mentorship program. And so we're a collective umbrella of knowledge and information to be able to help grow the sport, help grow the industry, to let more people know, and particularly let more women know that there are opportunities out there.
Yeah, beyond just driving, because if you think of racing, I'll admit that's the first thing I thought of. I didn't actually go beyond that. Like when I think of women in motorsports, I just think of drivers, and there's a lot more to that. I mean, we've interviewed Rhiannon Gelsomino, who's a co-driver for Pastrana, of course, but I mean, beyond that, that's really what I think most people's limited to. And I was thinking of this throughout the day of like, what things would I want to know that I could ask you? And one of the corporate lingos we talk about is we have a thing called in representation called not about us without us. And that's when you're talking to a group, you don't talk about them without them present, in the sense you don't make a program about somebody if they're not there to help give you feedback on it. You're not really addressing your demographic that way. What is, in your mind, what makes us a good ally for women in motorsports? We're three dudes sitting up here. We've been racing and playing with cars our whole lives. But if I'm going to be, helping, if somebody comes along, a woman I know wants to get into motorsports, I have references I can give her that are other women. But as a guy, like, what do you want to see from us as a woman in motorsports?
I want
Dan
to
just
see.
made you and I look real bad.
Yeah, we're going down here.
What can we do
Thanks,
for
Dan.
it? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Geez.
No, I want to see
Real motivational
exactly,
speech, Dan. Great job.
I want to see exactly what you're doing, what Don's doing. I mean, what they're doing at the ProFormance school out there. I mean, they have a Women's Day tomorrow, and so I have this theory that women need to be invited. Men show up. Men will crash a party in a heartbeat. Women have a sense that they need to be invited. So
That's true.
what you all can do is to invite women to participate, to invite women to listen. I mean, don't wait for them to show up, actually invite them. And you are the most important people, the three of you and all of you I call you male allies.
Making us feel good again.
Yeah.
You are, because I actually attended a seminar last year, and this guru from marketing around the world, he just validated my theory, because he said, without men, women will never achieve equality, because men are in most cases the decision makers, and they are the influencers. So even though we want women influencers as well, like a la me and others, at the same time, it's really the guys. The guys that are in the sport need to not make it feel like it's a guy thing. They need to invite women. They need to, celebrate the women that are successful, like at Dirtfish and what Don is doing, and what all of the great instructors that are out there, at their school and at schools all over. We need to celebrate women, highlight that they're doing well, and then you guys need to invite more women to show up and to participate.
Wow, Dan, thanks.
We can do that.
Yeah. We chatted. We're going to invite women.
Oh,
we're on top of that.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Speaking of women, or inviting yourselves to things, I want to talk about you being the first female rookie at the Indianapolis 500. That's not a small feat. That's something that can never be taken away from you. Can you tell me a little bit about that road to get there? I mean, be able to be in a car and racing against men and just owning it.
Well, every time you strap yourself in a race car, you better own it. My Ford Pinto or an Indianapolis 500 car, you wear that car, you become one with that car, so you better own it. If you're like, I'm not sure about this, then you're at some point you're going to start feeling that way, but you got to get over that really quick, and that only comes with lap times. That comes with seat time. Of course, now there's simulators and other ways to get that feeling. But I was so fortunate to to have a team owner who is really unique, and that's Dick Simon. He had taken more rookies to Indy than any other team owner. He was a former driver himself. And, there are people who are really good at what they do, but they can't teach. And then there are people who are really good at what they do, and then they're also good teachers. Quite frankly, there are also people who are not that good at what they do, but they're great teachers. Dick was great at what he did, but he was also a great teacher. And he had that ability to tell me what I needed to know when I needed to know it. That was during the month of May at Indy, but he also gave me the opportunity prior to the month of May. Like, he took me down to the old Texas World Speedway. No media, no other cars, no hype, and just said, go. And gave me laps and taught me how to lift before you go into a corner to ultimately be able to go flat through the corner. So he was basically teaching me how to go flat around an oval, and getting confidence of what that feels like. And so I was able to develop that under no pressure, and get that confidence to own that, so that when I got to Indy, even though it's a completely different track in different corners, and Texas has got a bunch of banking, and Indy's at 9 degrees of banking. I mean, they were completely different, but I was able to know what I was trying to feel, what I was expecting, what I needed to feel, to be able to do that. And so I just was fortunate to have the right team owner at the right time, even though it was late in my career. I mean, the Indianapolis 500 was my first oval track race and only my second open wheel race, which I would never recommend to anybody, but that was just the way that I was listening to or reading something about one of the drivers, the rookies this year at Indy. It may have even been Marcus who won, who said, he likes high-speed corners. I've always liked high-speed corners. I don't like road courses where you have to pitch the car around the corner and all that. I like really smooth, high-speed corners. Guess what? There's 4 of those at Indy. And so it adapted, or it suited my style of driving. I'm a precise, consistent type driver. I'm strategic. I pick my times to make my passes. I don't just stick my nose in wherever I can. And, it just suited Indy for me. And I'm very goal oriented, but I never, ever, ever expected to be Rookie of the Year. That was never on my agenda. I mean, we had 9 rookies the year I was there. Jimmy Vassar. God, I can't think of the other one. There were a couple of well-known. And I just didn't even have that on my radar. I just wanted to be successful, qualified, race as hard as I possibly could. And I was learning every lap. When I've said that so many times, I was learning every lap. I was learning how to pass. I was learning how to handle traffic during the race, because we didn't have that much throughout the month of May. And then I was reading Jimmy Johnson's interview this year about, here's 7-time NASCAR champion who's already won at the Brickyard, who was quoted as saying, I was learning how to pass. I was learning how to deal with traffic and how to deal with the dirty air around those cars. I'm like, it's just the nature of what happens when you're a rookie there. I mean, I don't care whether you come from that kind of a background where you've been, I don't know how many victories he's had in NASCAR and all of that, or whether you came from my background. It's just the nature of the beast. And it just, but I felt so right there. I mean, I just did. And so winning Rookie of the Year, I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. And I found out that Dick Simon had never been awarded Rookie of the Year with any of his rookie drivers, even though he had taken more rookies to Indy than anybody. And so I was more pleased and proud for him than even for myself at the moment.
You've never been afraid of speed. You've had several speed records, which is you was first woman over 200, was it?
Well, I think officially with an FIA record, I was the first to do that.
And then the Thunderbird speed record, 227 miles an hour, I think it was.
No, 232 top speed, 212 was the average.
Yeah, Dan, get it right.
Sorry. Faster than I'll ever
Extra
go.
4 miles an hour you shaved off of there.
Tell us about what you're doing with ProFormance. Dawn's here with us today, of course. I want to talk a little bit more about just about the program.
Well,
Do you know you're doing something with her?
I wish I would be out there tomorrow to watch. I mean, I think they brought something like 70 or 80 women that are going to be showing up tomorrow and experiencing, some for the first time, some that have been there before. They're going to get a chance to get some lap times in, to understand, understand our sport a little more. I mean, a lot of people think it is about just going fast, and that isn't the case at all. I mean, it's about the mental approach that you use, the concentration. It's about car control skills. And so they're going to have sessions where they get to go out on the track. They'll have sessions where they learn more about what it's like to drive. I know some of them may choose not to drive, but they want to get some hot laps and experience it. I love taking people for hot laps because they think, oh, what's the big deal? And then they sit in that car and they thrown around from side to side, and I mean, you learn a lot about people when you give them a hot lap, because sometimes the people who are real boisterous and bold, and all of a sudden they get behind, they get strapped in and they're going to get a hot lap. They get real quiet sometimes. They're like, whoa, slow down, and then some people are kind of quiet and maybe a little more reserved. I mean, I've literally had people that I've given hot laps who say, go faster, go faster. So, it's an experience, and it's an insight into what it's like to have car control. And today's cars have so much more ability than most any driver really does have. So, you'll have a chance to learn so much. So, I mean, I think they've been doing this Women's Day for a long time, and I know they're going to continue doing it because, again, women need to be invited, and that's exactly what this is all about. And I think it's also an opportunity to share what our sport is doing for women in motorsports. And I'm excited about what we're doing with IMSA, and I'm actually the ambassador for they've got a program that is going to come out in 2023 that's a championship caliber program in the WeatherTech IMSA series in the GTD Pro cars, in a Porsche with top level team, Proton with top level engineering. And so, there's still opportunities. Women have shown they can show up. Women have shown they can compete. Sometimes women have shown that they can win, but unfortunately not enough. And some of the reasons is because it's really hard as a woman driver to get with the top team, the top engineers, the top equipment, and enough funding to be able to do it right. And that's the differentiator that I'm excited about what we put together in working with IMSA, because and they're also creating a STEM program that will be visiting every community that the racetracks are in. They'll be doing STEM program to be able to invite younger people to understand this sport is open to them, and whether it's engineering or whether it's driving or whether it's marketing. But through the STEM education, they'll be able to get exposure to what our sport's about. So it takes, if you want to change the landscape, if you want to change your business, you have to change how you do business. And that's exactly what I'm right now excited about working with IMSA on that, because sports cars and production-based cars. I mean, I spent over a decade professionally racing at IMSA at SCCA Trans Am, and those cars, they're as close you could still be a car. And to be honest, I think it's the best level playing field where a female driver mentally and physically can be competitive. It just takes the support around them to be able to make that happen. There has to be a commitment on everybody's part. I had that with Dick Simon, and it made a difference.
The program that Lyn's talking about is something we've been working together on for almost a year now. It's John Doonan, the president of IMSA, and Lyn and Donna and I, and I would say in all my years in motor racing, it's probably the most exciting program we've ever had the opportunity to be a part of. I mean, the support level from Porsche I've never seen before. The support from Michelin, Richard Mille, IMSA. There's nothing missing here. We're really, really excited about it. Really want Seattle to be behind the project. It's got a lot to offer. So it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Lyn on it because she brings so much to the table.
Right. Yeah. We have a lot of women drivers in Avants and racers as well. I mean, Michelle's on the chat here. Michelle Graff is an instructor for you guys, I know.
Right.
And then we have a lot of women driving Porsches. So if you're listeners, audience, if you guys are hearing this, just get out there and drive. You can show up to the track. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. You have a lot of resources. If you're not, I mean, your school makes it very comfortable for any woman to go out there. I know many women who have gone out there, no experience, gotten on the track and had great instructors. And the Pinto is a great example. You don't need to get a brand new Porsche and go to the track.
Right.
Like grab a spec Miata, grab your daily driver and empty it and go to the track. Like as long as it's safe and the tires are good, you can go have a good day without, breaking the bank and just get your feet wet.
We can't get enough female instructors because we have more and more female clients coming on board all the time, coming out, enjoying their cars, learning, understanding the industry. So it's a real exciting time at ProFormance right now. So we're looking forward to tomorrow. We've got a good group. We've got some gals that are going to be there that have never even been to a racetrack, and then we've got some seasoned veterans who've been at it a while and everything in between. So by the end of the day, they're all going to be goddesses on the racetrack.
Well, Lyn, tell us a little bit about your book that you've been doing, or you did, excuse me.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, I originally wrote it back in 2001, and it came out in 2002. I was hoping that it would be my full season. I would capture my full season, which I never had an Indy car. But I got the publisher, but I didn't get the sponsor to do the full season, so I had to write the book. And it turned out to be a book more reflecting on my racing from the Pinto all the way up. So it's really not just about racing though, because I probably read every self-help book there is out there because I'm a sponge for wanting to know how to be better, how to be smarter. But what I learned is I would read these books and I realized I'm learning all this in racing. Racing taught me more about life and about how to live a quality life, how to achieve goals, how to perform at your best. I learned all of that through racing. And so I wrote kind of my racing life, starting with the Pinto through my last Indy 500. But then at the end of every chapter, I wrote some pit stops, which are these life lessons about. So it isn't just about racing. It's about how these life lessons came along that can help you in life. I mean, one is like how to stop negative thinking. We all get caught in the negative thoughts. And so there's the 5 R's, of basically you've got to recognize that you've had a negative thought, because believe it or not, sometimes you don't even do that. You try to push it aside, and then you've got to replace that with something else. And so it's just, it's kind of tips about how to, how I.
We should be writing this down. Yeah.
Good thing she did.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
So that's, so the book has been very well received. Young people have enjoyed reading it, and I ended up republishing it again and updating it a little bit. So it's just called, what's it called? An Incredible Journey. I'm sorry. It's an incredible journey. I mean, God, yes, it's an incredible journey because my journey has been incredible, and I just wanted to share it with more people, and as I said, a lot of people are enjoying it, and I think they're taking away some of those life lessons, or they're hearing stories about racing that they can relate to that's probably happened to them too.
Oh, I thought you were
there we
reaching
go.
for a beer.
There we go.
Much better than a beer.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
I loved my time in the book, Lyn. Our daughter was an equestrian, and I heard her trainer say one time, there's a lot of lessons you learn in the barn. It's not all just about the horse and riding the horse. And I would say the same thing. There's a lot of lessons that you learn in a race car, and they're not all in the race car. There's a lot of lessons you learn in the garage. And I love working with drivers that come up the hard way, drivers that didn't have it handed to them, that dealt with the challenges and keeping sight on their goals and dealing with doors being slammed in front of them constantly and just never losing sight of their vision and making it. And you're one of them.
Well, I mean, that's what sports and competition does bring to life. I mean, and I can't help but then bring out that this year, by the way, is the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which is when the law was actually put in place that you could not discriminate if you receive any federal funds, and in sports in particular. And so that opened the world so much more to young girls and females getting opportunities in sports that had always been available to the guys. And so whether it's you get college degrees, you can get college scholarships, you learn about life. I mean, there is an executive that probably hasn't talked about their sports experience now, and I mean that was 50 years ago when it was put into law. And I'm convinced that the reason why there's more girls racing go-karts, and there's more girls in quarter midgets, and there's more girls doing junior dragsters, and there's more girls, competing when they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, is because now we have moms and dads who played sports in school, who then understand the benefits of it. And so a sport is a sport. And if you have the inclination and, you want to go drive a little go-kart, or you want to drive a quarter midget or a junior dragster, then that's should be just as open to an opportunity for a young girl to do as it is for a little boy.
So, I mean, a lot of the women these days definitely look up to you when they're racing, but who were you looking up to as you were coming up, and who were your heroes?
Well, my Shiro was Billie Jean
Shiro.
King.
I like that better. Okay. That's
Shiro.
what I meant too. That's
There
Shiro's.
you
Yes,
go.
absolutely. Okay.
Was Billie Jean King, because I just watched her on TV in 1973 when she beat Bobby Riggs, and I know that it somehow that sort of hit my brain and said, if she can do that on TV, you can go out and drive a race car against the guys, And then when I started racing, I mean, to be honest, I was there was nobody there then. I mean, the people that I looked up to were the guys, because I wanted to win. So I would literally, when I went to the 24 Hours of Daytona, I'd watch Peter Gray. I'd watch Hurley Haywood. I would watch the drivers that were winning. Al Holbert, Rick Knoop. I mean, there were just so many good racers out there, but at the time there were not women that I could look up to. Janet Guthrie obviously came along in the late 70s, but that was at Indy, and I was out of the Pinto by then, but I was still at the grassroots level, and so I never saw myself ever going to that degree. And not only that, to be really honest, I watched Janet in the 70s at Indy, and to be honest, I didn't see her smiling a lot. And I also saw there was a lot of negativity. There were a lot of, it was not pretty. I mean, to watch the way a lot of the fans treated her and the way the other competitors treated her. And I was not experiencing that. I was feeling very, very comfortable. I've always been comfortable at a racetrack, whether I'm driving or whether I'm a fan, or I'm always happy when I'm at a racetrack. And so I said, I'm just going to do my thing, and so, and then I got Ford as a sponsor in the 80s, and I'm now racing professionally, competitively. And I've got teammates like, Scott Pruitt and Tom Bloy, and, some really good drivers. And so, I just was like a sponge and would soak up how I could beat them.
Who are the drivers you're watching now? The young women drivers, especially.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's so many. There's this Kaylee Bryson who's running in USAC that's caught my attention. That's doing so well. Courtney Crone has been doing really well in USAC and now into the LMP2s. Sabre Cook, Hannah Grissom. In sports cars, and then of course drag racing has always had. I mean, not always, but I think ever since Shirley, drag racing has had some great superstars out there. And right now they're rocking. I mean, Brittany Force and Erica Enders, they're just...
Anybody with last name Force, yeah.
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 in drag racing, which I just love. In open wheel, we don't have as many as I wish, as I'd hoped, but it is coming in the open wheel more through the USAC category. Obviously, Haley Deegan has got everybody's attention in NASCAR, but there's other gals running in NASCAR, that are running in the ARCA, the lower level of NASCAR and ARCA. So, they're scattered. I mean, there's so many types of racing in this country that it's really hard to capture, women that are running in one particular category. That's why it's so important. But what we're doing in IMSA, because there are some really strong, competitive, championship caliber female drivers that are rideless right now. They don't even have a ride right now, and so we really need to get them in a seat and get them with a team that wants them to win, that will win with them.
Actually, I had a question about that. Do you have any advice for young women drivers in getting sponsorships and holding sponsorships?
Oh, yeah. First of all, make a list of all the companies and products that you use, that you believe in. The other is, remember that every time you talk to anybody about sponsorship, that it's about them and not about you. And this isn't just for women. This is for anybody. It's just that the problem is that every young person, regardless of age, everybody that I talk to that says they're out trying to get sponsors, they do these long portfolios of their racing resume and they're all about them. And then they pitch themselves to a company. And instead, they should do research about the company. Find out what kind of business the company is, what products do they have? How do they distribute their products? Where do they distribute? You've got to be a business person and learn about the companies and then figure out how you can help the company. You've got to figure out how you can help the company grow their business, increase their business. What can you do for them? Not, what they can do for you. And everybody spends too much time pitching themselves to a company rather than learning about the company and understanding what they can do for a company.
Yeah, Lyn, I mean, you and I have had this conversation, and I think the one thing we've learned is to, first of all, stop referring to them as sponsorships. They're not, they're partnerships. It's got to be, something mutually beneficial. And Lyn's spot on as far as you need to understand the business that you're going to involve yourself in, or it's going to be a very short, long relationship. Lyn, I want to back up here real quick because you just threw a word out there that I kind of triggered a thought. You were talking about you've always been comfortable at a racetrack. You and I both know that motor racing is a business of an exercise in becoming comfortable with discomfort, right? You're never comfortable, let's say, in a racetrack. So back it up to the 500. You're there for the month of May, and the goal is to get to a number and get comfortable. At what point in the month of May, or were you just comfortable right off the bat at 240? But at what point in the month of May were you comfortable? I don't need the day.
No, but it's funny because I spent more time in the pace car than I think any of the other rookies. I mean, I was out there trying to get this feel of how to get that damn car around. It's a whole different line than it is in road racing. And it's all about momentum, but it's still your entry is completely different, and it's, even though I'm smooth, those arcs were so long, their apexes are like way down there, but you don't turn into the apex. You've got to glide down into that apex, and it's just, oh God, it was such a different thing. So I have to say that the first time I really felt really comfortable, and I'll never forget it, actually, you made me think about this, was the first time I went out to qualify. I mean, and I don't know if I'd ever put 4 laps together and gone flat, up to that point. But I just remember sitting in the car and there's this whole routine that you go through when you go out to qualify, and you're in line and they hold you and you have to wait till the car that went out before you clears, and the chief steward then gives you instructions about what to do. And it's also the first time that you enter the racetrack directly out of pit lane instead of going down, the whole pit lane all the way around the track. So you go directly on the track coming out of pit lane. And I just remember Texas. I said to myself, Texas, because you're out there all by yourself, and it's like you own this racetrack. And I literally remember saying as I pulled out, this is my racetrack. I mean, it was just that confidence level that I had to feel that this is I don't have to look in the mirrors. I don't have to listen to a spotter. We didn't have spotters back then, but I don't have to listen to the radio of Dick telling me what's going on or asking me what the fuel temp, the water temp is or what the oil pressure is, because we didn't have all the sensors on it back then either. So it was just like, you block it all out and it's my racetrack. And that was my first confidence, really strong, confident feeling, was the first day of qualifying. So that was 2 weeks after being there.
That was a good question. You should do this more often.
Steep learning curve.
There may be a gainful employment for me there, maybe.
I have a personal question for you. I know you're a grandmother now. Congratulations, by the way. Did your kids always think, like, holy crap, I have the coolest mom in the world? Because I would.
No, I have a daughter, and she would be so annoyed because she'd come home from school and it'd be like, I'm not race central. Everybody wants to know what happened at the races over the weekend. I tell them, turn on the radio, read the paper. I'm not the one that's going to give you all, so she had her own life. I mean, she was proud of me, and she liked going to the Indy 500, and she liked meeting Mario Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi. She liked some of the fringe benefits, but I don't think she ever felt she had the coolest mom. It was more of, she had the coolest life. She knew she had a good life.
Is she into motorsports at all?
No, not really. I mean, she abides by all the laws when she drives. I mean, it blows me away. I'm like, I remember even when she was learning how to drive, I would ride with her, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I realized what she was doing was coming to a complete stop at a stop sign. Stop at a stop sign.
I don't understand those people either.
Me either.
I don't get it. It's like, stopping is a suggestion.
Right, yeah. Well, what are you driving on the street anyway? Do you have a favorite right now? I mean, I'm sure you have multiple, but I mean, do you have
No, I don't have a lot. I didn't win the Indy 500, for God's sake. I just ran it, but
well, still.
I know, but I have a small garage and I don't have a crew, and I'm not. So I have, my favorite little car is my 1990 Miata. I mean, it is my little red sports car, and it's only got about 40,000 miles on it. I've had it since it first came out. It's my, I've been the only owner, and that's my have fun, take a ride, put the top down, go for, and just have a good time. So that's my car.
That's an everyday race car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Miata is a perfect example of learn to drive a slow car fast, and you don't get in a race car, you put it on. Every time I get in a Miata, I feel like I've put a piece of clothing on it, just one with it. It's part of your body.
Yep. It just feels right.
I'd pay to see you in a Miata.
I would pay to see me in a Miata from the pain I would suffer. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as they say, Miata is always the answer. And people have asked me so many times, like, what should I go? What should I get? I'm on a budget. Well, before cars went through the roof, especially Miatas, I always told everybody, just get a Miata. Get a Miata, go to the track. If you can drive that fast, then you can go from there. But that's the perfect.
I think if you can get from the back to the middle to the front of the spec Miata group, you've developed your racecraft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. I'd get a Mini Cooper.
Size wise. Yeah. Yep. Before we close or wind down here, which I know we're getting ready to do, Lyn, thank you for sharing with the group what we're working on in the project we have with IMSA and from the Seattle side. And if there's anyone out there in our group listening that would like to know more about what we're trying to do here and get involved in it corporately or privately, I'm not hard to find. I am not hard to find. Neither is Donna. So we're open to coffee with anybody.
We'll put that contact information on the episode notes too.
There you go.
Yeah. Is there, I'm going to go back to the car conversation because I'm dying to know. I always like to ask the pro drivers who really are fast, like, is there a car out there that you're looking at that you're like, yes, that is impressive, that you've got, or anything you've gotten behind the wheel of, or you're just like, whoa, this was pretty mind blowing?
No, I mean, I spend too much time on airplanes, to be honest with you. I don't have that much time to drive, but my problem, I'm going to tell you my problem is that I'm not into all of this high technology. I mean, I mean, I want to drive the car. I don't want all of these freaking buttons and, different things. I mean, it's just, it drives me crazy. So, I mean, if I were to get excited about a car, it's going to probably be something from, the 80s or the 90s, with a lot of power and not, and it brakes and handles and, I mean, I'm not excited about all this new technology stuff. It just doesn't do it for me. So from
That's fair.
Yes, it's not a very exciting answer, but it's the truth.
Well, I mean, let's twist a little bit. So what were you excited about in the 80s and 90s that came up? Obviously you bought the Miata, but I mean, what came out in, let's say the 80s, let's give it the 80s, that you were like, oh my gosh, that's something.
I really liked the XR4 Ti, the Merkur.
Yeah.
That was a car that I raced, and then I had one of those that I was able to get from Ford. And so I wanted to keep that car. I was like, I don't want to give it back. Because I really liked the way the turbo came in. And I just liked, it was big enough that I could, carry things around and stuff like that. So I don't like Corvettes. And I'm trying to think. And I really am not I got to be careful and tell you what I don't like. So
Let me just pull this knife out of your Mr. Corvette. But no,
I like them all.
Yeah.
Well, I have to get seated. The only thing is I have to fit in the car and get seated properly. And it's hard to do that, actually. That's one of the things that I think women have a hard time. Some of the cars are they're really hard to get seated. At least the more current cars have more adjustable seats, which I like. I drive a Kia Springer, not a Springer, Sprinter.
Stinger.
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 Stinger. I have a Stinger GT. I have a Stinger GT, and I actually like that, but I still don't like it's got too many different buttons and things I gotta try to.
Josie Rimmer from Dirtfish is on the chat. She's very, very happy. You said XR4 Ti, by the way. You just scored a lot of points with Dirtfish.
Oh,
Right? I know she's a big fan.
Do we have any questions from the chat?
There's a little bit of a delay going to YouTube, so we'll give it a minute here. But if there are questions from the chat, I would love to take them from our YouTube audience. So let's give that a minute to catch up, and I'll bounce back to that. Let's see. Oh, Debbie Briscoe says, I have your quote about wearing the car in my logbook and read it on the first day of a race weekend. When did you first actually feel that sensation? Good question.
Yeah.
I know Debbie. I think it was kind of hard with some of my early Mustangs because they were like tanks. And well, I mean, they were just, but it was probably my later Mustangs. No. I know exactly what it was. I had to think about that. Sorry. It was the Ford Argo prototype car. 1984, I had a Ford Argo prototype, and it was just perfect for me. It was a small GTP car, and I was just perfectly fitted in that car, and the weight balance was perfect. The engine was behind me. The brakes actually worked, and I just wore that car. That was the first time I had that real sensation of feeling one with the car. I tried it on other cars, but it was more like a conversation and an argument rather than, feeling like I'm aligned with the car.
Good one. I have a comment and a question. See, Josie Rimmer says, Lyn, next time you're here at Dirtfish, you can drive my 86 XR4 Ti, the Lady Avocado, as she calls it. There you go. Go do some rallying.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Tell her.
There you go.
That was a hard sell.
Yeah.
Hey, you like this car? Here's one. Oh, okay.
And then Michelle has a great question. Okay, there you go. Good one, Josie. Let's see. Michelle Graff has a great question. Can Lyn talk about the best ways for women to find driving mentors? Maybe they are more slowly getting into racing and need to find connections for learning.
Well, I can tell you that I would use the same theory that I used, which is to approach people or mentors sometimes without knowing they are. Don't wait to think that, oh, well, that person wouldn't give me advice, or that person's too good for me, or, I'm not at that level yet. I mean, I have never been afraid to ask anybody for help. And to the point that I've been annoying over the years. But I think you pick your mentors. I mean, just don't wait and think that somebody has to show themselves as a mentor or as somebody who will be helpful. You have no idea sometimes who will actually respond and give you some good advice. People love to feel proud about what they know and what they do, and just going up and asking with intent, not have a specific reason is a specific question. I remember Jim Busby. I remember grabbing him, and I didn't grab him, but I mean, I remember walking up to him on pit lane at Pocono, and I said, Jim Busby was like he was Mr. B of Goodrich, and and he had the big GTP car, and I was driving a shitbox Mustang at that time, and I was
Popular model, the shitbox Mustang. Yeah.
That car, I felt like I was I felt like I was riding on top of the car rather than in the car. And so I said, Jim, have you got a few minutes? Hi, I'm Lyn St. James. Have you got a few minutes? He goes, yeah, sure. Would you walk pit lane with me? And would you point out one or two features of every race car as to why it's good or why it's bad? And we literally walked up pit lane, probably looked at 10 different race cars, and he pointed out the seat position, the where the center of gravity was, where the wheel, the housing, the wheel wells, and where the wheels were placed in the wheel wells, how low the engine was. I mean, he literally gave me visual, knowledgeable information about why this race car was good and that race car was not good. And I learned more in that 10-minute walk with Jim Busby than I learned probably the whole year of trying to race and trying to talk to my poor crew who were trying to make my car work. So you just never, you can never be afraid to approach somebody, but have intent, be specific about what it is you want to know, and pay attention and take notes.
That's great advice.
I mean, to answer Michelle's underlying question, yes, Dan and I will be your mentor. You're welcome.
And you will be slower as a result.
I didn't say she'd be faster. I said we'd be your mentor. So you couldn't. It's not written there, but it's what you wanted to know.
Well, and pick your mentors because you want to pick people who are really good at what they do. Because
help her with her insurance.
Well, technically, we're picking her, but I mean, same thing.
Finding driving advice and going to Michelle, quite the opposite. Yeah. We have one last question.
You don't want a wanker as a mentor.
Good. Hey, that is a perfect timing because our next question comes from Peter Gleason.
Never heard of him.
He's very British. And he has a simple question, which is a really good one, though. It's a great one to close with. Best race, the one Lyn would like to be remembered for.
Ooh. Nice job, Peter. You
Good
broke
job,
it.
Peter.
Yeah, your best race is not always the one that that you want or that everybody else would be thinking about. Well, there's two parts to that. I mean, there's the best race that I felt I did versus the one you want to be remembered for. The one that I'll probably be remembered for is when 1985 at Watkins Glen, when I won driving solo in a 500K race at IMSA. It's the only time it's ever been done, and I don't think it's been done since because I think they probably wrote it out of the rules. But where I didn't let my co-driver in, and I drove the whole race myself and won. So I probably will be remembered for that, other than the Indy and the Talladegas. But there's a car that I want to talk about. Actually, I wish I'd thought of it earlier when you asked me that question. The race car that I got, great. It was the 2007 version of the Ford GT. So I'm now answering that other question that you gave. If I had a chance to have a car, that would be it. But it would be the one that Kevin Doran built. And I mean, I told Kevin, I said, this is my race car. I mean, I drove it that race at Watkins Glen. I was like in a zone, you know. It personally was one of my best races. I know my lap times were consistent. I know my lap times were good, and I hit all my marks. And that car it's got adjustable power steering. It has air conditioning, which I forgot to turn on, and I've never had a car that had air conditioning before. And it had a seat that I could adjust to fit me. I didn't have to have a seat poured. It was just fit for me, and the car was just, it was just perfect. The brakes worked for the whole race. It was only a 30-minute race, but still, it was a memory that I'm going to cherish forever, is in Kevin Doran's GT3 Ford GT that he built.
Wow.
That's a hell of a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lyn, thank you so much for coming and doing this. I know you're not feeling well, so thank you for making this work. I know we had a few difficulties in the beginning, but it means a lot to us for you to be here. Really love talking to you. And thank you, everyone at Park Place, for hosting us, for still making this work. And, of course, Avants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
ProFormance.
Lyn,
I don't know what you've done yet, but thank you.
Well, I didn't do much. Lyn, we'll see you in the morning at coffee.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for understanding. You know, unfortunately, I got COVID, and but I'm coming out of it. But I couldn't risk myself and anybody else out, and I wanted to be there. We've been planning this for months, and so I appreciate everybody kind of stepping up and pivoting and adjusting. And I'm so glad we at least got to do this. And I hope everybody has a great time this evening and has a great time tomorrow. And please join us on our IMSA program campaign. We need you to join us. This is the time.
I told Lyn earlier today, we were on the phone, and I said, Lyn, we're growing something here that is our 20th year or our 20th anniversary of our Women's Day at Pacific and ProFormance. But this one here has really grown substantially. It's going to be a 2-day event next year. And I told Lyn, the good news is you've got employment next year up in Seattle.
Yeah.
A paycheck.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you next year in person. And from our YouTube audience, everybody's saying thank you very much. You're an inspiration to many, many of them. So thank you, YouTube audience, for tuning in and making this work for everybody.
Well, thank you. Actually, I'm looking forward to be at that track too, because I ran Trans Am at that track back in the 80s. So I want to get back on that track.
Yeah, you had a young protege there with you, Paul Newman. You remember that guy?
I've had a salad.
Yeah, salad dressing. Yeah, salad dressing. Popcorn salesman.
Yeah.
They'll have a good time. Okay.
Good to see you, Lyn.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon. For this episode of the Avants Podcast. Oh, sorry. That's Lyn St. James. I'm Nick Bergeron.
I'm Dan. And don't just get there. Enjoy the drive. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.